Hey guys, I'm back again. So I'm really so sorry for that. I got off so abruptly. You'll see that I said, oh, Bo went to the door and he's 9 weeks old and we're potty training him. And he went to the door at 9 weeks old. He's just a little fella. And he did. He immediately went outside with the boys and he went to the bathroom. So, as much as my videos are important, the living creatures that need to live as part of the family are just as important. So thank you for bearing with me on that. If I interrupt again, it's because I've got dogs bouncing around. I have 2 adult German Shepherds, 2 very different backgrounds. Thor is a rescue. Balder is my senior dog that I've had, since he was a baby. And I have a puppy running around like a crazy maniac. So I just always keep an eye out because, an adult might make a mistake and get aggravated with a youngster and cause a problem. So I'm going to wait a few minutes and ramble a little bit. I am going to circle back around to, because I want to, by the way, my ADD. This is why we're waiting a few minutes. No. Bo. Good boy. That's it. That's your toy. Good boy. He absolutely knows when he's being a little devil. No, don't bite Balder's paws or ears. Find something else. Because then he'll have a right to growl at you. Bo, find your toy. Bo, find your toy. So fascinating to watch all this go down. Okay, so I'll wrap up also that story. What I was talking about, or my theme for today, so this is part 2. You stay in any position as long as you can do more good than the dark can do bad. And through my life, I instinctively did it. I got it validated today by watching this person who's had higher jobs than I've had and has kind of battled the darkness from a place of the no because they've been inside the system politically. And he basically said this today. And I just felt so validated and happy. Hello, be careful, because Balder will discipline you. And he even talks back. It was nice to have that fact validated that I had instinctively done it. And I had carried through my life that I wasn't as far along as other people, because I ended up leaving corporate altogether to do my holistic healing work. And I didn't get to become famous because oftentimes the ones that are authentic and speaking the truth were kept down by, the commercial system. Oftentimes, not every time. There are a lot of published authors out there that are the real deal that thankfully got in. Thankfully they did. I know that I was warned several times that I would never be allowed to enter because I was actually the real thing that they couldn't control. So I felt validated by listening to that very experienced gentleman who I found, through, now that the darkness is getting, really throwing so many punches at, it's all around the world. It's like a worldwide revolution that's going on, and one's going to win, and we hope it's the light. But finding all these people that I have found through Facebook, which can be a very dark place due to censorship and other issues, I have found people that led me to find out that I instinctively did something right, walking away when I could no longer do as much good as the dark was doing even more harm, not just to me, but to anybody else. Like I became ineffective, if you will. So that last hotel that I was at the place where I grew up, that was basically why I left. And no one stood with me. I asked other managers, and grown-ass people, much older than myself, wouldn't stand with me. And I ended up walking away on my own. And I did, persevere because I was able to get employment when I was threatened that I would never work on the island again. But it still hurt because I look at the entire breadth of my career in corporate, and I always stood up for what was right to my detriment. And I will say there are a lot of healers out there that probably, some are better known than me, but they don't have financial success. I have moderate financial success, enough to pay my bills and my animals that I take care of. We might hear a sudden shriek at some point because he's going to push Balder a little too far, and I'm going to let Balder discipline him because Balder has discernment. So just in case you hear a shriek, he's not bleeding to death. He's just being disciplined by his older brother. So what's interesting about the follow-up for the hotel story is over a decade later in my 30s, I was at a parade on island. And I was reminiscing in my mind about many of situations like that where I stood up. And the restaurants where I worked, my bosses protected me and I was appreciated. They knew I was honest. They knew I was a hard worker. And I was so grateful for all that. And they took care of me. So I have been rewarded for being good. And there is, sorry about that, just making sure nobody kills each other. There is places that you can work and the good outdoes the dark. But in this hotel, it just wasn't possible. And I was reminiscing during this parade, and this happened to be a British gentleman, came up to me, and I barely recognized it because it was, it's been 10 years. And he said, "Gabby, is that you?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Do you remember me? I was one of the managers at the hotel that you were the innkeeper." And I went, "Oh my God, yes. How are you?" And he said, "I was hoping that one day I would see you again." And I went, "Really? Why?" And he said, "I didn't stand up with you when you left. You were the only one who had the guts to stand up for what was right. And I wanted to tell you, I was hoping that one day I'd run into you again because I regretted that decision to not stand with you since it happened. And I want you to know that within a year, I got out from under those horrible people and I started my own business. And I have employees now. And I swore that when I let you down, that I was going to start a company and treat people the way they should be treated, with decency, with dignity, with respect, with ethics and morals. And I wanted to let you know that your sacrifice was not in vain. You impacted my life to do all that I've done to date. And I want to tell you that it was your example, even though you're so much younger than me, that caused me to change the direction of my career." I mean, I'm misty-eyed talking about it. I think I bawled for like an hour afterwards. I kept my composure in front of him and I told him how much it meant to me and that even all those years later, it was so worth it. And I held no malice. I wasn't angry at anybody. I was disappointed, but I wasn't angry. And he even said, as you know, I was worried for my family. I was worried about making money. And I realized that I shouldn't have put the money or the job first. I should have put integrity first. I should have put morals first, ethics first, which now I do. That even before listening to this other gentleman today that validated my decision, in that moment, I realized I'm a maverick. I've always been singled out. I've always felt like I've lost the battle with darkness, but I never lost. I stood up for what was right. And while I don't have a big fat house and a big career and a Mercedes and all that stuff, I've always been provided for. So like other healers that don't have enough that say, "Oh, the dark has targeted me, so everything's been stripped from me and I have no money." It doesn't have to be that way. That I don't subscribe to. Do I think that you'll only get to a certain echelon of making money because of the current paradigm and the current darkness that basically runs the whole monetary system? Yeah, I think there's a ceiling for the good guys right now, but that doesn't mean it's always going to be true. My other stories are from corporate and my first job at a big ad agency. Oh my God, the level of darkness was incredible. And I lasted there 3-4 years. If I told you every detail of the story, I think you guys would fall over. There's definitely a book just in that one job. But in the end, I would not compromise who I was with my integrity, and I made a ton of enemies, many enemies. And the owners were kind of one of those people that walked on the fence. They weren't the bad guys, but they weren't the good guys, but they certainly were aiding the bad guys. And so I began to see a plan being hatched as I participated in some of the bigger clients. And I saw that they were going to set me up and I was going to take a fall. And I was not going to allow myself to be put in that level of harm. And they were going to try to blame me for a financial loss. So I made sure that that could not happen. And then I realized I had to create an exit strategy, because while I saw this tactic being used on me, the overall strategy wasn't going to go away. They were going to keep coming for me. And there would be a day that I wouldn't catch it before it was going to happen and be able to thwart it. Besides being incredibly unhappy there, I realized how many people were indentured servants, basically. And when you look at the whole financial system that we have today, or even in the United States, we're indentured servants. You're paying taxes on taxes on taxes on taxes for stuff that you supposedly bought. Like a house that you bought, it's not really yours if you don't pay all the taxes. Property tax, education tax, tax. They'll take it away from you. So you really don't own it. You're kind of leasing it from the government. That's not ownership of anything. You're an indentured servitude. You just keep paying. I think our financial system around the world is one of the most corrupt systems I've ever seen. It's so dirty, it's not funny. It's like, wow. So with that said, I went to the guy that hired me, who was the president of the company at the time. And I did my exit interview, and I said to them, I kept it to business points, not the emotional, how I'd been emotionally abused, singled out, how a certain senior executive was vile to me. I kept all the emotional stuff out of it, like the emotional abuse, the mental abuse. I kept all of it out. I kept to business points because I know that people like that, all they hear is money and business points. So if you try to appeal to the emotional side, you're just going to get hit with a brick wall. Same thing applies for today. I mean, it's going to, people say, no, it shouldn't be that way. It just is, but that's because the darkness is ruling it. So I went in there with the business points of why I was resigning. And I said, if you don't listen to me, you're going to lose 1.5 million. And it's not because I didn't warn you. And so I could tell he listened to me and was kind of respectful, but he was also like, yeah. What do you know, kid? Because I was young. I was 20, 24, 25. And I went, okay, well, I've said my piece. And of course, my staff, they had a party for me. The forces that were against me there, the senior executives, were enraged. You could see them like grinding their teeth and knuckling, white knuckling throughout the day as balloons were brought in and they had a lunch to say goodbye to me and people were crying. And I was like one of the youngest people there. And as I was leaving, that's when everybody was still at their job. It was the end of the day. And I was walking out alone and I felt just completely defeated by these people because I had to leave. I had to quit. And I thought to myself, they beat me. And one of the most amazing women that I will never forget her name, she was actually the assistant to the nemesis, the arch nemesis of evil there. And she looked at me as she sat at the front desk finishing up the day. Out. Sorry, trying to get Thor to not knock down everything. Out. And she said, why do you look so glum? And I said, well, they beat me. They won. And she said, why do you think that? And I said, because I'm the one who has to leave. And they all get to stay and make their money, and I'm the one who has to leave. And she said, well, actually, she's like, you won. And I said, how do you figure? They didn't turn you into what they are. And you gave us a great example of integrity and of ethics and of decency. You won because they were not able to convert you into what they are. And they have done it to every person that has walked through those doors. So she said, don't you ever forget, you won. I know her name. I'm not going to say it just out of respect for her, but I'll never forget her as long as I live. And there are so many stories like that I have from my career that I have carried with me. And even though I've gotten validation through the years of staying in integrity and staying in ethics. And, you know, people will use excuses. They'll say, it's just good business. God, there's a great movie, The Pirates of the Caribbean, my totally favorite one, where they're talking about the East India Company. And the guy, every time he does a nasty move in the film, it's just good business. It's very much true. Business people use it all the time. Like, I remember being in Hollywood, and a couple of times I had to read some contracts for being on camera, and I would read their contract and go, this is your contract that you're handing me? And they go, yeah. Everybody signs it. I'm not signing it. Why? Because it's totally bent on your side, and there are things in here that are horrible. I said, do you realize that every time you hand somebody a contract, you represent that contract? You're saying that that contract is who you are. Well, this is a standard industry contract. Why are you being a problem? Just because everyone's using it doesn't make it right. This is what I mean by business. The message of the man today that he was trying to share was that people make all kinds of excuses for what's just good business or standard business contracts, standard business practices. Just because everybody's doing it doesn't make it right. But we've really lost our way because there's so few that have ethics, decency, morals. I mean, it's not that. I feel that if we just had a tiny little shift towards ethics and morality, if you were to focus on mission and purpose and doing the job that you absolutely loved, the money would come. But we have it ass backwards. We look for the money and think that that's going to bring us happiness. Like my friend who's like my brother, he did everything he was ever told to do. He made tons of money, has a penthouse, all this big stuff, and he's absolutely friggin' miserable. He even has great looks. He's one of the handsomest men I've ever met in my life. And he's miserable. And he's miserable to everybody. And he's miserable to women. And he's totally on the dark side. And I knew him when he was a kid, and he was a great, great soul as a kid. And now he's just twisted and nasty and cruel. And it's just good business. He did what he was told to do. So, I mean, that's part of this message today. There's a lot of messages going out in the media. Sorry, I'm making sure the puppy is not doing anything crazy. There's a lot of messages in the media and in business. And just because somebody who's an authority figure is telling you to do something doesn't make it right. And are you going to be on the side of light or on the side of dark? You can't just say, well, I have a family to support. That was everybody's excuse at the hotel, everybody's excuse at the agency, and everywhere else I've ever been. Well, I have this responsibility, that responsibility, we need the money. Well, I had responsibilities too. And yeah, it cost me financially to do the right thing every single time. I mean, I don't know how many times close friends have seen me hang my head and cry and go, I guess I'm just a loser because I can't not stand up. It's like in my DNA. I can't not protect people. I can't not do the right thing. I don't know what it is about me, but something compels me every time. And I'll have certain friends and certain people and go, because you're extraordinary. And I said, but I'm not. I'm like everybody else. But like a lot of people who know me were like, my back got hurt and I had to slow down for a couple of days because I had to learn a tough lesson. And someone was like, Wonder Woman does have to slow down. I loved the analogy, but I'm not anything special. Everybody has gifts that God gave them. My gifts are a little different than the average bear's, but it's no better or no less than a gifted writer or a gifted doctor or a gifted artist or a gifted writer. It's no more, it's no less, but how we focus those gifts and how we choose to stand in the light. I mean, if everybody would stand up, if everybody in that hotel had stood up with me, we could have changed that hotel right then and there. I did reach a couple of people, and I wasn't punished the way a lot of healers say, I've punished from doing the wrong thing. I've never been able to make money. That's not necessarily true in my case. I've always found a way to make money from integrity. Have I made as much as my counterparts that have the same education and languages that I do? No. But then again, I wouldn't want to make money that way. I want money the right way. And I want to be able to wake up in the morning and be satisfied with myself and not feel like I've not who I'm supposed to be. And so when you're really seated in the light, that connection compels you to do the right thing. It's an inner knowing. No one has to tell you right or wrong. Boss tells you to do something and you know it's wrong. You can't, there's just no excuses. People get complicit because they use excuses. And, it's interesting. When I hit the ad agency early on, I saw the misery and I felt the servitude and I couldn't quite understand it, but I made an agreement with myself. I will never own anything because I will never allow anyone to own me. I will never let a job own me because of whatever responsibilities. So for years, I lived really sparsely in the sense that I had a dog, but did I have horses? Did I have the things that I hoped to have in this life? No, because I kept it really small because I was like, the more I try to get stuff, then the more a job that may require me leaving because I want to do the right thing will own me. And I don't want to be owned. Now, I started my own business and I have struggled to get it to where it is today, absolutely. And I still face ridicule on occasion. And I have to laugh because I'm much more easygoing about the ridicule now because I have 20 years of a solid reputation that I sit on, that I do the work of the light, that I have helped people, that I've continued to help people. And I do it from a place of integrity. And I'm helping businesses. Like, I have businesses that have started up during COVID that are starting to thrive. And, the external conditions never matter. It's, are you doing the right thing? Are you putting the light in that business so that it can prosper and it can shine? And I'm kind of proof with the companies that I work with, they're all doing great. So, and there's growth. And that's exactly what we, all of us in the light are trying to show. Come from mission and purpose and the money will come. And then the teachings from some of the Buddhists that I've met through my lifetime, a very high-ranking Geshe-la that was brought up with the Dalai Lama, and I've told that story before. You can see that in some of my other videos. Geshe-la shared with me, how much is enough, Gabby? Because I did have a shopping problem at one time because I was young and I was dumb and I was, I wanted the latest bag or the latest shoes, and I do have expensive taste. I still do to this day, but it's definitely comes from a place of, well, if I have what I need, I don't buy anything else until that thing runs out. But the Geshe-la is the one that got me on that path. He said, how much is enough? How many bags are enough? And I go, what do you mean? Well, say you buy a bag that you can't live without because it's so fabulous. And then the next day you go out and you'll see another bag. And then there'll be another bag. And then you'll be another bag. He said, basically, the external will never suffice. So how much is enough? When is it enough? When do you have enough? And it changed my whole world because I literally thought about that for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then I found my spending habits changing dramatically. Like, wow, how much do I need? What clothes do I wear? How much do I wear those clothes? And I began to realize that more than I probably used a quarter of my closet. Because everybody has certain uniforms that they wear that they really like. So I got rid of a lot of stuff. Again, it's like consumerism is good, but to the point where, sorry, I'm trying to see if a certain individual has my slipper. How much is enough? And so we get ourselves into financial binds because we keep wanting things because society programs us. And then the bad guys get us because then we become indentured servitudes to jobs where maybe our bosses are not good people. Maybe our managers are not good people. Maybe they're asking us to do things that are wrong. And we really have to look at that. And more people need to take a stand. And one of the things that I think, after listening to this guy today who shared his experience that was the same as mine, and he said, what he said, like, I've only stayed in positions where I could do more good than the bad could do bad. And the minute it shifted, I left. But he was never fired, never outvoted, all that stuff. The same thing with me. I've never been fired, never been outvoted from any job. But I've left when I could no longer do more good than the dark was doing harm. And it was funny. I felt today, okay, I now get it. And I now understand that that is something I've always tried to lead by example, but I never could put my finger on what the key story was. And I can now. And I want to share it with everybody who's listening, because whether you're starting your career or you're in the middle of your career or you're far out of your career, far out, you are maybe in retirement helping people move forward, you have to be the example. And just because it's a standard business practice does not make it right. And where do you draw the line? Because I will tell you absolutely right now, with what's going on the planet, there's no standing on the sidelines. You will not be able to meet your maker at any time and go, I did thus because I was told to or ordered to. It won't suffice as an excuse. Just kind of like literally ignorance of the law in the United States. You can't use that as a legal argument in a court of law, high law school. You can't use ignorance. And you can't do it today. You can't say, I didn't see, I didn't think, I didn't know. It's your job to know as a human being, as a soul, having a human experience. It's your job to stay in the light. It's your job to know right from wrong. And if you are putting yourselves in positions to literally be an agent of darkness because, well, I have to do what I have to do to make money, do you? Do you really, or do you not have enough faith that you'll find a better job? I'm not saying I have all the answers there, but I will say one thing. This is a person that has taken a lot of financial hits in life and always managed to work it out because I stayed in the light. So I don't feel like the dark has been able to punish me the way some healers talk about that. I think that's self-imposed. I think we manifest our abundance, we manifest our luck. But okay, good things to think about. Thank you again for listening. Please share with others. My last video, I guess I didn't save it fast enough and I wasn't allowed to save it. So that won't be on YouTube, but this one will. And I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks again for being on here with me today, and please share with others. All right, bye-bye.